we're talking about how founders can like hop onto a path that makes more sense in the long term and like get them that energy and drive to go on. At the same time, I also want to just pick your brain on this concept about trusting the gut. Because it's easy when like I've seen founders who say that, you know what, like I just go by data. For me, data is everything. And there's also like, set of people who talk about intuition and like trying to say, I'm not able to like put words to it, but it just comes to me. So just trusting the gut, however, when people talk about intuition, they just equate, like often people equate it with irrational motives. Like just trusting the gut means that you make quick decisions and you just don't have data to back you up. So could you talk about how founders can actually maximize their potential by trusting the gut and what it means to go by trusting the gut?
Interesting. Okay. So I think that this is a great question. And, for me, when I think about trusting your gut, there's a couple of things that come up for me. One is that if somebody's listening to this right now, I want you to think about all the times that you didn't listen to your gut, but you were right. You had a bad impression about someone. You knew something was going to happen that wasn't going to be good. And you knew it early, but you didn't do anything, right? Most of us have these examples that we can think of that we were like, I knew that was true. And you didn't do anything about it. I want you now to think about all the times you had an instinct and it was wrong. Those times are very few for most people.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to think of. So, a lot of times when people think about the gut, they do think about it as irrational. For me, I often think about it as, your gut is often a way of synthesizing information quickly. And that if you can close, there's ways of making decisions so that they're not irrational. And by that, I mean, like, I always hope that people think about the decisions in terms, if they're going to move really fast, in terms of two things, reversibility and stakes. Like if something is reversible, right? Like how permanent or reversible is this decision? If it's like, hey, I want to try to build this new feature, that's not like the biggest deal. It's very reversible. It's not the biggest deal. I also look at it in terms of stakes. So like how high or low stakes is it? So reversibility, stakes. If it's reversible and it's low stakes, move fast. Right. That means that, you can change it if you need to. It's not going to have the biggest impact on the world. If it's not reversible or like a permanent decision and high stakes, you think about that, like getting married, right? I mean, that's a pretty permanent decision and very high stakes with very high kind of back end. So like you think about that, you don't just use your gut and go, oh, I met this person. They're wonderful. Let's get married. And maybe that works out for some in reality TV, but in the real world, it's probably not a great idea. And even in reality TV, I'm not sure how well it works. So with things like trusting your gut, I tell people to try as hard as they can to move quickly in things that are reversible and low stakes, because second guessing and hesitancy does two things. One is that it makes you move slower, but two, the more hesitant you become, the more you lose confidence. And people don't think about that. Like if you thought about doing something and you didn't do it last year, and well, you kept thinking about it, but you didn't do it. And now you're looking at other people, as you've talked about, we look at others and they've done it and they're doing really well. And now I don't really want to start it because they're doing really great. Is there even space for me? The more hesitant you are, it's not only hurting your own progress, but it's hurting your own mindset because you start not to trust yourself. You start to second guess yourself. Right. And it harms you. It harms what you're building. I would prefer people to move quickly and to make some mistakes rather than not to move at all. And that's what ends up happening if you don't take some chances with yourself. So I hope people dig in there, trust themselves a little bit and see what happens. As long as it's reversible, as long as it's not permanent and does forever damage, I think that you'll be fine.